What's up, everyone? Today I'm showing you how to approach the reading passage in the AP English Language Exam's multiple choice section. We're going to walk through a passage and sample questions together, so let's get started. The practice multiple choice section we're using today is from the College Board's AP Lang course and exam description. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Usually you'll have to read a speech, essay, article, or any other piece of writing and answer questions that will require you to think critically about the speaker's purpose, the context, audience, and other aspects of the rhetorical situation. This passage is an excerpt from a speech delivered by a leading women's rights activist in 1913. One strategy I recommend is to skim the questions first, find line references in the questions, and quickly underline or circle those line references in the passage with the corresponding question number, as I've done right here. Then you can either 1. Read the entire passage and begin answering questions after, or you can 2. Read the passage and answer the questions as you reach each line reference. I usually follow the second method. You can pause this video now to read the passage on your own. Now let's start tackling the questions. Question 1. Which of the following best describes the writer's exigence in the passage? The term exigence means the factor or factors that motivate the writer or speaker to create the text. Remember that the correct answer can usually be found in specific lines in the passage. If you have to extrapolate too much, that means that the answer choice is probably incorrect. When thinking about the writer's exigence, we can identify two sections in this passage that begin with the words, "I want." This phrase is a hint for the reader to understand why the writer is making her argument, or what motivated her to make this argument. In these highlighted sections, the writer says she wants to make arguments for the adoption of militant methods in order to win political rights, and explain that property damage is a way to bring about a political situation that can only be solved by giving women the right to vote. These sections imply that women feel powerless and have only one option left to create change. If you have time, I recommend writing down your own answer before looking at the answer choices so that you can see which choice aligns most closely to your initial thoughts. My answer is that the exigence is women's current powerlessness due to their lack of voting rights. Now let's take a look at the answer choices. There's no mention of a lack of interest among eligible voters, which would be men. Additionally, the writer does not discuss women's employment concerns or jobs. Instead, she discusses women's suffrage. The next choice, the limited resources available to women for changing existing power structures, is similar to my answer because I said powerlessness and a lack of voting rights, which both insinuate that women are being limited in some way. This passage does not mention disparities in socioeconomic circumstances or contrast wealth and poverty. The last choice is trying to trip us up because the writer mentions the rights of a taxpayer in the first few lines, but this is a hypothetical situation, not one that actually occurred. The correct answer is C. Question 2. In the opening paragraph, lines 1 to 10, the writer contrasts a hypothetical rhetorical situation with her own primarily to. Looking at the first paragraph, the speaker contrasts a man's situation with a woman's situation in these highlighted parts. Essentially, she explains that people treat women's reactions to injustice differently from men's reactions. Men are supported by others when they protest, whereas women are not. My answer aligns with choice A. Illustrate the double standards for men and women in the political realm. Let's examine the other choices. The writer does not say that women are more reluctant than men, and the next choice, emphasize the influence of women on democratic culture in the US, is not related to the first paragraph. It's important to note that this passage is indeed about women and democracy, but the question is specifically asking about the first paragraph, which is meant to contrast men and women's situations. The phrase have been eroded in the next choice is incorrect because it insinuates that women lost rights that they already had, but they actually have never had the right to vote in this passage. And emigration is not mentioned at all in the passage, so choice A is correct. Question 3. In the second paragraph, lines 11 to 30, which of the following best characterizes the writer's position on the relevance of her topic for American women? My answer is that it's necessary for American women to adopt revolutionary methods, even though they're assumed to have many privileges. The writer calls out American men's complacent attitude, since many of them find nothing wrong with the current state of affairs. The first answer choice directly contradicts what I said with the word unnecessary. And the second choice says that American women have access to other methods, which opposes the author's assertion that women have only one option: to protest in a revolutionary or radical way. Women have not yet succeeded in getting the right to vote, and the writer does not state that her recommended methods are best suited for men. The last choice, E, is correct because it articulates the need for American women to protest even though they are perceived as well off. Question 4. In context, lines 11 to 23 could be used to support which of the following claims about the writer's tone? Let's pick out individual phrases that will help us pinpoint the writer's tone. The phrases quite calmly acquiesce, deprived absolutely, a very simple fact that women are human beings, and it is quite evident, are very insistent and impassioned statements. Very and absolutely are intensifiers, proving that the writer is trying to add emphasis. Her words are almost biting. Choices A, B, D, and E are not fitting, but choice C, bold and forthright, is definitely what we're looking for. Question 5. In the third paragraph, the writer criticizes the logic of those who dismiss the methods of British feminists as irrational, line 42, on the grounds that they have. So it's important to look at not only line 42, but also the surrounding lines for clues. These lines point out the fact that many people do not understand the reason why women are damaging property. They're doing it to call attention to their lack of voting rights. Choice A misconstrued the feminists' reasons for employing the strategies they have chosen to employ, does suggest that critics of British feminists are misunderstanding the situation, which is true. The critics are not trying to verify anyone's identity, and there's no mention of less provocative or less extreme views. The critics are not distinguishing American and British feminists. This last choice, assumed that feminists do not understand the normal political process, is tricky. But note that the writer says it shows you, or the critics, do not understand the meaning of our revolution at all. She explicitly states that the critics are misunderstanding the feminists' reasons. The last choice, E, might be true, but it's not explicitly stated in the text. It's just an assumption that the critics could make. Therefore, the correct choice is A. Question 6. In the fourth paragraph, lines 52 to 67, the writer introduces a hypothetical scenario primarily to. My answer is to prove that voting is an effective way to address a grievance. Choice A is incorrect because the writer is not questioning the feminists, she's supporting them. Choice B underscored the efficiency of voting as a means of addressing political discontents is similar to my answer. Additionally, in these lines, the speaker declares that it is perfectly simple and perfectly easy for voting communities to get their grievances removed. Simple and easy are synonyms for efficient. The writer does not discuss compromise, nor does she refer to any special privileges men recently received. Lastly, she does not spotlight men as a good example for women's rights activists to follow, so B is the correct answer. Question 7. In the context of the passage, all of the following phrases refer to the same idea except. Most of these phrases are references to radical methods women are using to obtain the right to vote. The only phrase that does not fit is D, the proper and the constitutional and the practical way of getting their grievance removed, which is a reference to the act of voting itself. Question 8. At the end of the passage, the writer uses the either-or construction in lines 75 to 78 in order to. My answer is to describe two options that women have, implying that the antiquated means, which means the radical methods or uprising, is the only option that would lead to a solution. In this sentence, the writer is not explaining why American women haven't obtained the right to vote yet. And those two options that she lays out will not accomplish the same goal. One option, submit indefinitely, will mean that women won't be able to vote, whereas the other option, revolt and protest, means that women do have a chance of getting the vote. The writer does not advocate for patience. Choice D is similar to my answer because it encourages women to take a stand through disruptive action. Choice E is incorrect because the speaker is not suggesting that old-fashioned methods are superior to modern methods. She would agree that modern methods, that is, voting, are superior, but in this case, women don't have access to those modern methods. Choice D is correct. Here's a review of the strategies I recommend for the reading passage. Underline line references in the passage and write the corresponding question number. When you reach the underlined section, answer the question. Look at the sentences before and after the line reference for clues. Practice identifying tone, diction, and different aspects of the rhetorical situation. On my Instagram, I have a list of words to describe diction and tone, so definitely check those out. Write your own answer before looking at the answer choices. Practice identifying the main idea of each paragraph. Search for synonyms, antonyms, and paraphrases. The answer choices will often include synonyms for words that are in the passage. And most importantly, if you have to make a lot of assumptions to reach an answer choice, that choice is probably not the correct one. You should be able to find specific lines and evidence to support the correct choice. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments, tell me the types of questions that trip you up the most in the AP Lang multiple choice portion, and I'll give you any tips I have. Keep a lookout for part 2 of this video, in which I will be explaining how to approach the writing passage in the multiple choice section. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tap the bell. I'm Miss Peer Editor, and I'll see you next time.